Welcome back to McNulty's Book Corral. Thank you for checking in. I'm grateful for the small but enthusiastic audience that I have. And thank you for your comments. As always, I appreciate the recommendations, and I'm glad to hear from a few of you that the recommendations I'm making are useful and that you've read some of the books that I've recommended. That's all this is about, just having fun with this overcrowded collection of vintage paperbacks, comic books, magazines, hardcovers, and so forth. Going back many decades, it's a lot of fun for me to pull them out and recommend something. Today I'm recommending another retro author, Harry Wittington, who was born, I think, about 1915, died in 1986, was one of the great vintage pulp paperback thriller writers, I think one of the best in my opinion. Harry Wittington also wrote some really good hard-boiled westerns, and I have some of those original paperbacks, which I'm going to do in a separate episode. But today, I want to talk about some of the reprints. The first one I want to recommend to you is A Haven for the Damned, which looks like this. I'll have a better scan of this for you. Published by Stark House under their imprint Black Gat Books. Stark House Press is one of the retro publishers that's putting out a lot of these authors who would be forgotten, I really think, if not for their superb effort to get this material reprinted. Harry Wittington, if you love thrillers, Harry Wittington is not an author that you should ignore. This is actually my favorite all-time Harry Wittington novel, A Haven for the Damned. This is a early 1950s. This is one of those paperbacks from that era where it's just chock full of suspense, and it builds and it comes to a violent conclusion. What I really like about the authors from this period who are writing these direct paperback thrillers is, especially Harry Wittington, is the sense of desperation that they were able to give the characters. I mean, they're desperate to survive. They're desperate for a glass of water. They're desperate for food. They're whatever it is they're looking for. That sense of desperation is just amazing. It just slaps you right in the face. This is a book. If you have not read A Haven for the Damned, you can find this easily on Amazon. Check out A Haven for the Damned by Harry Wittington, one of the all-time great classic thrillers. Now, Stark House Press has reprinted quite a few of Harry Wittington's books, including those westerns I mentioned that I'll show you in a separate episode. I'll show you the original paperbacks. They've reprinted the westerns and a lot of thrillers, including a couple of their collections have 3 books in one, including this one, which is A Night for Screaming, Any Woman He Wanted. 2 books for one, in this collection. Look at the fantastic cover here. I'll have a scan of that so you can see it. The headliner here is A Night for Screaming, which, is one of the all-time greats. I did like Any Woman He Wanted as well. These are authors, when I say I liked it, I've never read anything by Harry Wittington that I didn't like, and that's the purpose here. I don't pick up a Harry Wittington book and say, well, I didn't like it. That's not the case. He even wrote a couple of Man from U.N.C.L.'s. I think he wrote Man from U.N.C.L. number 2, which is really good. The Man from U.N.C.L. series was actually quite well done. Multiple authors worked on that. That's a different episode coming later. Anyways, Harry Wittington, you cannot go wrong with. Look at the great cover on this. So I really am in favor of these retro reprint publishers, such as Stark House Press and Armchair Fiction and so forth. There's so many of them. And getting these books back in print. The truth is, frankly, when you look at thriller writers, this is better than most of the thrillers that you see stacked up in Barnes & Noble or at Walmart. You see stacks of them. Does anybody buy them and read them? I'm not going to mention certain authors, but there's a lot of that on the market by contemporary writers, and there's no comparison. These guys were great. A Night for Screaming. Take A Night for Screaming and A Haven for the Damned as an example, and you're going to have 2 of the finest thrillers that you've ever read anywhere. So today, another tip of the hat to Stark House Press, and a nod to the late, great Harry Wittington, one of the classic, gone but not forgotten wonderful thriller writers from yesteryear. Stay well, stay happy, feed your brain, and read one of Harry Whittington's books.